Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to the beautiful state of Puebla, Mexico. Today we are in one of my favorite pueblos mágicos or magical towns in the whole country, Atlixco. And there are actually two festivals happening today, the Valle de las Catrinas and the Fde Laina. So I'm gonna go walk around town and give you a little tour of both of the festivals and just the town in general. Before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. That is the best way to support me here on YouTube so I can keep showing you my travels throughout the country. Starting off our tour here in the Zócalo of Atlixco, or the main square. This is a super picturesque town with colonial style buildings, tons of talavera or hand-painted tiles all around me. It's about a 45-minute to an hour drive from Puebla City, making it the perfect day trip. And it's a pueblo mágico, which is a town that is recognized by the Mexican government for their preservation of their history, culture, or architecture. Now, Atlixco is actually known as the City of Flowers, and you can see behind me that here on the weekends they put a bunch of vendors that sell all kinds of different plants and flowers right here in the Zócalo. And that's because Atlixco has a really great temperature year-round, so the plants here grow really well. You can find pretty much anything that you could ever want here, including succulents, cactuses, but the most important flowers that they're selling right now are the cempasúchiles, which are marigolds in English. And these flowers got their name cempasúchil from a word in Nahuatl that means 20 flowers or many flowers, because you can see their petals have such an intricate form. These particular flowers are really important this time of year because we are getting close to Día de Muertos, and these are the flowers that they use on the ofrendas or altars to bring back the souls of people's loved ones who have passed. It's really popular this time of year for the towns to decorate their main gardens using cempasúchiles. Atlixco was made a pueblo mágico in 2015, and it's in part due to the colonial style buildings that you can see here behind me and throughout the rest of the centro. And it's also due to its location at the base of the Popocatépetl volcano. Hopefully, if it's not too cloudy today, we'll get a nice view of that when I take you guys to the Mirador de Cristal, which is an awesome overlook of the whole city. Another thing that the state of Puebla in general is known for is talavera, which are these hand-painted tiles. All of the benches have a different design of talavera, and then in the middle they have a picture of some site in the city. And like I said, it's also really common to find them on the buildings here too. I'm a huge fan of ceramics, and the amount of talavera that you can see around Puebla is one of the reasons that I wanted to move here. It's really unlike any other place that I've visited out of the 19 states that I've traveled in Mexico. Today through November 10th, they are celebrating the Valle de Catrinas in honor of Día de Muertos. You can see a giant Catrin here behind me, and this one is Emiliano Zapata. So this year's theme are historical figures that have passed. Emiliano Zapata was a military man during the Mexican Revolution in the early 1900s, but he was also a campesino, meaning he was from the countryside in the state of Morelos, so he fought for the rights of indigenous people and communal land ownership. The other Catrin that you can find here in the Zócalo is Porfirio Diaz, another hero in Mexico's history. Should I say hero or villain? This is a really big debate because while he did do a lot of good things for the country, he was widely seen as a dictator. He was in power for 30 years, and it's said that he killed more people under his reign than the sum of people that died in all of the successive battles of the Mexican Revolution. Now, this is actually the 4th year that they are holding this festival, and this is the map. They have a bunch throughout the town, and then there are also some in the cemetery and some in the Campos de Cempasúchiles. Hopefully, if we have time today, we're going to go see those farms, and we're also going to make our way up here to the Mirador de Cristal on the Cerro de San Miguel. But now we are going to stick to the downtown area and see if we can find the rest of the Catrinas that are around here. If you guys didn't know, the image of the Catrina was made popular by a Mexican artist in the early 20th century named José Guadalupe Posada as a satirical figure to critique the upper classes' European-influenced lifestyle. But today, Catrinas and Catrines are a staple figure of Día de Muertos, and it looks like here we have Miguel Hidalgo. Before we keep making our way through the rest of the festival, we're gonna head over to the Fde Laina because I'm starving, I haven't eaten yet today, and we're gonna go see what we can get for lunch. The Fde Laina was held this year on October 19th and 20th, so it's definitely over by the time I'm posting this video, but the festival was huge, and cecina is basically like a salted, dehydrated meat that is cut very thinly. I typically am not a big fan of cecina because it has to be really fresh or it's honestly kind of dry. They were also selling side dishes to accompany the meat, and they included cheese, nopal salad, which is a type of cactus, and avocado. If you go to Atlixco on a normal day, you can always visit the town's mercado or market, and they sell cecina there. After I got my food, I headed over to the aguas frescas stand, and they had so many different flavors. I ended up choosing the guava flavor and watermelon. We ordered a half kilo of cecina, but they ended up giving us barbacoa too and less cecina, but I really wasn't mad about that because it was delicious. It took me forever to make my tacos because I was putting everything on them, and I was also making a huge mess of the table because they didn't give us any separate plates to eat on, and the plastic forks they gave us were really small. Both of the meats were really flavorful, super juicy, and I loved the side dishes. I'm a huge fan of nopal salad. Overall, I'm giving the Feria de la Cecina a 6 out of 10. It was kind of weird. Everything was sold separately. For a half of a kilo of a mix of cecina and barbacoa, it was 180 pesos. The salsa, I think, was 25. We had to buy the tortillas separately for 20 pesos for like 10. And then we also spent 100 pesos on that plate that had cheese, nopales, aguacate. But now we're back to the Valle de Catrinas, and this is Juan Escutia, and he's recognized as one of the Niños Héroes that died during the Battle of Chapultepec in Mexico City. We're running a bit short on daylight, but we're still trying to make it over to the town cemetery to see how it's decorated. I'm not sure if there are any altars up yet. I'm trying to move fast so that we also have time to go to the Cerro de San Miguel. There's a beautiful church up there. You can see it from here way up on top of that hill. It's 4 p.m. and it gets dark at 6, so we're gonna do the best we can. If you guys haven't noticed yet, Atlixco is not only full of flowers, but it's also a very colorful town. It might be a little bit hard to see, but these stairs are painted with a woman and a man. These are dancers from the Atlixcayato festival that they have in the end of September. And that festival is another reason that Atlixco is recognized as a Pueblo Mágico because it represents the indigenous cultures of the region. Here in this plaza, we have Jose Maria Morelos y Pavón. He was one of the heroes of Mexican independence, and his signature phrase is "Morir es nada cuando por la patria se muere." I'm not exactly sure what these are made of, but what I can see is that they have a metal base, and then it seems like the rest of it is made out of cardboard, like a paper mache type situation. The rainy season here in Puebla still has not let up, so I'm not exactly sure what they sealed them with so that they don't get damaged by the rain. But if you want to see Morelos, then you're going to find him right here on the way to the Panteon. Outside of the Panteon, we have Maria Sabina, who was a curandera. Basically, she made medicines out of things like mushrooms and herbs. The mushrooms that she made medicines with were called Niños Santos, and they grew in Oaxaca. Luckily, the cemetery is open too, and I think you guys will find this really interesting if you haven't been to a cemetery in Mexico. They're much different than in the US. I feel like the whole idea of death in the US is seen as such a sad thing because we don't really have any traditions that bring their souls back like Mexico does with Dia de Muertos. It's more so dress up in black, go to their funeral, cry, and then when they're buried, maybe you go a couple times a year to visit the gravesite. Here in Mexico, the cemeteries are a very colorful place, and this will all look completely different in a couple weeks when it's Dia de Muertos. You can see that a lot of the gravestones are actually above ground. It's finally time to climb the Cerro de San Miguel, and on the way up there, you're gonna find the Catrín de Cuauhtémoc. He was an indigenous fighter that fought for Tenochtitlan against Hernán Cortés, and this might be one of my favorite ones because of the amount of detail in the headdress and shield. I'm really not looking forward to this climb because I've done it once before and I'm super out of shape, so it was really hard for me. If you can't make it all the way up to the top, it's at least worth coming to this parking lot in this little church here because the view is amazing. The walk up to the top of the hill is a little bit confusing. Maybe in these dates it seems a little bit more clearly marked because there are a lot of people. During the week it's a little bit difficult to find the route because it really isn't that well marked and you won't see as many people walking around here. You basically just have to take the way that goes up and it looks like you're literally in somebody's backyard most of the time. kind of an interesting sign on the way up here. It says that if we catch you robbing, we will lynch you. And I literally do not take that as a joke because that does happen here. I feel like I'm about to pass out, but there's the Virgen de Guadalupe. Maybe she will help me. Some things to consider about this walk: you need comfortable shoes and it's a lot of inclines and stairs. There are places to get snacks and drinks, and there are also bathrooms, so don't worry if you didn't go beforehand. You really just need to worry about if you're in good enough physical condition to climb it. At a little bit more than the halfway point, you're gonna find La Malinche, who was an indigenous woman that was gifted to Hernan Cortez, who of course was a conquistador. She was basically his right-hand woman, and she was a translator for him. They also did have a child together, and supposedly their child is known as one of the first people of mestizo descent, which is a mix between European and indigenous. We have almost made it. There's a little bit more to go, but we are here at the Mirador de Cristal. You can see that it's called that because it's a glass floor. You do have to take your shoes off in an effort to keep it clean. And then this is the view, the best view of the city, of the volcano. The Popocatépetl is still an active volcano here. You can see that it is still spewing smoke. And this is the volcano that is responsible for when Puebla gets covered in ceniza or volcanic ash. It's beautiful, I think. Finally made it to the top. If you don't think you can make the climb, maybe you can just enjoy it here from this YouTube video. Right behind me is the church. I don't really have a lot of information on this church or why it was built, but it is very small. Welcome to day 2. Yes, this video took me 2 days to film because it started to get dark while we were up at the Cerro de San Miguel. So we are ending this video at the Campo de Cempasúchiles. These are located about 10 minutes outside of Atlixco's downtown area. And if you're visiting this festival, I would recommend starting here before going into the centro. There are tons of people, so make sure you go early because traffic and parking can be a nightmare, especially if you want to try to leave and come back. Within the fields, there were a ton of food and drink vendors. This was really an incredible experience. It was a bucket list item of mine to visit a Campo de Cempasúchiles. They also had another common flower during Día de Muertos called terciopelo rojo, and in these fields is where you can find the Catrin de Pancho Villa. If you remember from the beginning of the video where I said Porfirio Diaz was a dictator, well, Pancho Villa basically rised up against him during the Mexican Revolution. But anyways, to not keep potentially boring you guys with Mexican history, I got a meat stick. This thing was a 10 out of 10. I think it was pork and it was drizzled in barbecue sauce. I definitely did stain my pants with that. But that's it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and don't forget to visit this festival before it ends on November 10th. Make sure you check the caption too and follow me on my other socials, and I will see you all next time.